Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Peter, Mark, and Chad about the Orville New Horizons coming to Hulu June 2nd. Gentlemen, thank you all for your time.
Hey.
Thank you. Peter, I'm going to start with you because one can make an argument you have the best name on this panel right now. Just letting you know.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, what I love about this. When I was first introduced to the Orville, Peter, right away I saw the parody humor component of it as well. But I started watching it and falling in love with the paying homage to sci-fi component to it as well. So I'm just curious, did you notice that kind of blend of comedy, parody, and kind of sci-fi, like tribute aspect of it as well when you signed on to the project?
I mean, yes and no. Like, yes, my audition was the scene where Bortus is telling Ed that I need time off to go lay an egg, and he's like, "Wait, you lay eggs?" And he's like, "Are they large?" And they are quite large. That's the exchange. And so in my audition, I wanted to try. And be outside of it, but to try to make a little something about, like, to comment on the egg, the size of the egg, thinking that was gonna be where the funny is.
Yeah. And
right away, Seth was like, "No, just the funny is in like you just telling him, because it's odd enough. Like, you don't comment on it." So when I say yes, I'm aware of that. But like after that moment, after the audition, and after that happened, and that was probably the only note really that he ever gave me in terms of like an acting note, in terms of like, but I mean, it's a macro note, but like, but that's been the approach of not trying to put, like, as he said, put a hat on a hat. Like, the writing is funny, just be, and I'm like, well, if Sam the Eagle and Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh had a baby, it would be Bortus, you know what I mean? So like, just be that guy, just be dry, be like, the Stephen Wright, kind of like dry, and let the funny take care of itself. So I say no in answer to that question, because I'm not paying attention to any of that. I'm just inside of it, playing the truths of the character. And then when you watch it, I'm like, oh, that shit's funny. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Chad, this is not you've worked in a lot of amazing shows in the kind of genre of like sci-fi and geek culture, nerd culture. What's your favorite thing about these type of, like, working on these type of shows? Is it like diving into all these different worlds specifically?
Well, this one specifically is playing an alien. I've finally been typecast. They figured me out. They know that I'm really from somewhere else. So, but no, just on the wish list to think about somebody like, from Galaxy Quest, Rickman doing that thing. I remember that resonating with me and saying, yeah, that would be really cool to do that. So when the opportunity came along, that's amazing. Also, with this show in particular, the hybrid nature of, funny and serious is just right in my wheelhouse. I love that stuff. That's how I kind of go through day-to-day life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's got to be, so that's exciting, and that's just very rich, and, it's challenging material.
Yeah.
And that it's like, I can spend a day, I can go to work and be zany in one short scene with one word, and everybody's busting out laughing, to another scene that's just heavily dramatic, for real, people going, God dang, whoa, people being Seth and Jon and other guys on the team appreciating that side of my chops. So it's really like, it's such a gratifying experience. It really is, because whenever you get an opportunity to exercise all of your ability in a particular piece of work, it's just super cool.
Well, it's funny because that was actually, Mark, my question for you, because I was just curious. Like, one of my favorite, like, The Orville is the perfect example of one of my favorite things about storytelling these days, kind of what Chad just alluded to. It's a genre-bending show, in my opinion. I feel like there's so many kind of things happening. I don't feel like we have to kind of keep ourselves in a box anymore. I think we could throw in a lot of different elements, and I love that. Mark, do you notice that like more in like season 2? Do you notice it more New Horizons? Like when, or do you notice it right away that you're working on a genre-bending show with the Orville?
Yeah, I mean, I think from season 1 that was obvious, particularly with these guys and their, their relationship and what they do, and I mean, their relationship brought in a sort of queer aspect to the show. I don't think we actually genuinely have any queer characters on the show yet, but I'm hoping we will. I think it does. I mean, certainly in, obviously, the trans aspect was brought in last season with the sex change and all that, and I think, season 3 does not stop at all. It pushes everything we've done so far further and further. And we battle a lot of interesting themes. We even touched on genocide last year, didn't we? I think last season. It's, to do that and have jokes that don't seem out of place in an episode, I think is incredibly clever.
For sure.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, with sci-fi, the best thing about sci-fi, and particularly episodic sci-fi like we're doing, is that you can tackle a whole new theme and storyline each episode that would be awkward, and you'd have to frame it and set it and contextualize it in the modern day. But 400 years in the future in deep space, you can do what you want, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. No, it is like, I love, especially with this new season, it's the perfect example of kind of what everyone just said. There's so much kind of happening. I feel like it's also a show, Peter, that, in a little bit of ways, like, those shows that you could just put on the background while you get home from work, you eat a slice of pizza and everything, you just watch it like passively. I don't know. There's a lot happening in this season where I feel like you have to really pay attention or you might miss something. Do you agree with me a little bit with that, Peter?
No, it's layered. It's layered. And I don't think that you can get everything without paying attention. Because there's like even just, even working with Tom Constantino, the editor, I've had a conversation with him and he's like, you always give me stuff to, there's always little subtle things in there like that, like commenting on without saying anything, you know what I mean? And because this show is, bridging the gap between comedy and drama, and, the fantastical and spaceships and, lasers and everything that you really, it's all laid out there. So why go to a 7-course meal and only eat the appetizer? You just take your time and take it all in, because it's all there, just down to the score. There's just so much work that's been put into every minute of every frame, everything has been designed and executed within an inch of its life. So I mean, and it's so purposeful. Right. So there's the more, it's just, I go back and watch episodes and I'm like, oh man, I missed that, and I was in the scene. So, but yeah, no, there's a lot that we've laid out a lot, especially now with the extra 12 minutes, we're in an hour long, in that world. There's just so much more to feast on,
absolutely.
Like Star Trek, you can watch these episodes again and again and again. There's
no shelf life. Absolutely.
So it's fun. There's a timeless aspect to them in that sense.
No, absolutely. Chad, before we wrap up super quickly, New Horizons coming out June 2nd on Hulu. What do you hope they get out of it, takeaway wise, when they watch this new season?
Well, I hope we garner a whole bunch of new fans, to be honest with you. Yep. I think people have a good sense of what's coming, but they don't. The magnitude of it is what's going to just blow people away, and I think that's going to get the chatter going for new folks to be curious about what's happening. I really feel like we've turned it up to a point that's the dominoes should fall that way. It's you know, for those who are at work or maybe you're on your phone, but it's the water cooler talk now. We're back to it, and hey, you got to see it. You got to watch this show.
Absolutely.
I think we're worthy of that. You know what I mean?
June 2nd on Hulu. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. It was great chatting with you.
Yes.
Later, Petey.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.